Starting the auction off at $1 for 1 minute, like we always do.
This is one of our favorite covers, and you got it.
A little bit of that, what y'all been looking for, right? A little bit of that, what y'all been looking for, right?
But grading's a really large subject, isn't it, Sammy?
Oh yeah, it can look very scary and intimidating, that's for sure. But we're going to use Reggie's dirty grading method of the high, mid, low. Just like keep it as simple as possible so you don't feel overwhelmed, but you feel empowered at the same time.
Absolutely. You know, I like, shout out Regie Collects, because this is a member of our community. If you like this type of content, you know, what this gentleman does, he goes live almost every day, and he takes on topics like this, and he makes an entire show, an entire broadcast out of it. So something he coined, as Sammy just said, is dirty grading. And I think this is really where, you know, more times than not, where people start. And if you like what we're talking about, no worries. We're going to get into specifics. I've already reached out to CGC. You know, I've reached out to CBCS. We have graders. We have friends, professionals in the industry that are interested in joining us here on the mic. So make sure to hit the subscribe button. But we're going to get very specific. This is going to be, as you see on the screen, this is Comic Book 101. We're not messing around. This is a full class. Buckle up. Don't be late. You're going to get in trouble if you're late, comic fam. But for today, we're going to talk about the term Regie Collects has coined, which is dirty grading, which is basically breaking down what is kind of a daunting task of understanding the entire grading scale and, you know, getting it to the point where you could be dangerous when you're on the hunt. This isn't a recommendation for selling. This isn't a recommendation for putting it in your eBay listing. This is a recommendation for just people who are brand new to the hobby, maybe just starting out. They're starting to want to purge their collection, but they never thought about grading it. They were just readers, you know? And I think the best way to go about this is breaking down, in general, the easy to understand grades so you can kind of get a range. What do you think, Sammy?
Oh yeah, I think it's like I keep saying empowering, but there's nothing like going on the hunt at a shop or at a con, looking at these books. And sometimes you'll come across a booth at a con and there's 4 of the same book. Which one do you choose? You know what I mean? Break it down based on, you know, because the price always correlates with the grade, like the condition of it. Right. And it's usually kind of like a high, mid, low situation. And you can decide then which condition you want based on the price.
Okay, so why don't we do this? We have some notes here. We actually combined 2 resources that are really great. Like, I recommend them both, like wholeheartedly. Overstreet has been, I mean, I don't have one around here. I just showing
right here.
So you got your Overstreet there. I have an Overstreet nearly in every room, on my dining room table, underneath my TV, in my bedroom. Overstreet's everywhere. Because I can't tell you how many times I've had someone go, you know, when I have like the Guru over, or Russ or Ryan, just anybody, oh, where's your Overstreet? Because like there's aspects of it that you got to have your Overstreet. However, Overstreet has a grade scale breakdown. So I want to make sure we touch on those terms, specifically the sections of the grades that we're going to talk about today. But also, we're going to go over some key collector terms as well, because the low, mid, and high, which is essentially what we're talking about here, to make you dangerous on the hunt, is what is found in Key Collector. A lot of people I've heard say, oh, the pricing on Key Collector, what's going on there? And it's like, no, that's not pricing. You can't compare that to eBay. You can't compare that to Overstreet or CGC. These pricings are low, mid, and high. It's suggested pricing. You're not getting 9.8 recommendations on there. You're seeing high as in VF to like a 9.2. You're seeing mid-range, and you're seeing low grade reader copies, such, you know, things like that. So the first thing we have here is low grade description. So Sammy, why don't you take it over?
All right. So cliff notes on lower grade. I used the Overstreet guide to kind of like, basically, like I said, give you guys cliff notes on this. So I'm going to read it right from the source. So when you're looking at low grade, I mean, these books look collectible and beat. They look loved. They looked very loved. There's clear defects. So you hold this book or you see it from a distance, you can tell there's defects on this book. Common for low grade, you'll see subscription creases, you'll see stains, you'll see fading, major foxing, loose or detached staples. You'll see spine ticks, like a lot of them, color breaking heavy, and accumulation of creases and dimples that could be in areas of the cover, and clusters or just all over the cover. So the overall appearance is this book has significant wear.
All right. And I like what it says here. Amateur assessment. The comic is in bad shape. All right. Worn with significant damage. Let's take a look at some examples here. And these are your examples. Sammy, these are your books. You have a great looking Steranko with Maurice Severin Hulk face on here. And it's, oh my goodness, it's detached.
Yep. Cover detached.
This is Hulk Annual 1 to the comic fam who are listening to us on SoundCloud, Spotify, Stitcher, and iTunes. This thing is banged up. And if you are dealing with a book that's detached, if you're dealing with a book where you can look at it and go, I can see over 15, 20 problems, like, whether it be detached, pages torn, things like that, this is automatically going to be a low grade book. Now, this is something that has different scales to it, because let's say you're dealing with a Golden Age comic book. A 3.0 is very different than a 1.0 for a Golden Age book. So we're trying to keep the community, the newer members, we're trying to give them something they can work off of. They're probably not buying these types of expensive books just yet. But this one right here is a comic book that clearly looks damaged. And when there's a comic book that looks damaged, it's going to fall within that scale. Let's take a look at this other low grade example that you have. This is finding out what lurked behind the beehive from Fantastic Four 66. We have the first cameo appearance of him, later renamed Warlock by the High Evolutionary.
So that one you'll see has a massive subscription crease on it. So the subscription crease is going to be right down the middle. Back in the day, they used to pop those, they used to fold them, pop them in the mail. And that's what you're looking at, is that subscription crease is just a giant color break right down the middle. And that's going to just auto put that book in that lower grade category.
So these are just a couple of examples here, but basically when you look at this list of things that you can be on the lookout for as far as damages go, at a glance, it looks warm, or it looks worn. It looks warm. All right. It is winter out here. But yes, you're looking for dull corners, rusty staples. I mean, the white crack marks on the spine, noticeable faded color, water stain, tears, brown and brittle pages. So let's actually take it up a notch. Let's look at a medium grade description.
All right. So when it comes to mid grade, all right, so this is really going to determine your difference between the high grade and the mid grade. Your mid grade is where you start seeing the color break on the core of the comic. So, you've got your margin here, but the color break is in here. That's like the huge difference, is the color break is in the core of the book. So here, the book looks clean, has no significant creases, no severe defects like a low grade. When it comes to stains, spine roll, tears, color breaks, and that kind of stuff, it's all minor and it's not severe like you would see in those last pictures of those lower grade books. So in your minor issues as well, there's color breaking. Like I said, color breaking creases in the core of the book. The book looks desirable, but it's got those, like I said, usually like a good indicator to spot a mid-grade issue is where it has those color breaking in the core of the cover.
Take a look at this Lois Lane issue number 70. Is that 71? 71. This is another one of Sammy's books. This particular comic, you can see in the bottom right corner here, has a crease going right through. And that thing is clearly color breaking. You can also take a look at the spine here and see how worn it is. But notice it's not as worn as that Hulk annual we were just describing. This right here would be that mid-grade range. Now, as mentioned, the range this is a multiple point scale. So as you're getting down to, as you're looking at like wanting to price books and sell books, you got to put a bit more effort into it. But as far as starting out, when you're on the hunt, this is a great way to begin. You know, you can shop with at least knowing what you're looking for. I was chatting with Russ over at Mill Geek, and I said, yo, you know, we're going to talk about dirty grading. You know, we're just going to talk about like the low, mid, and high. And he's like, oh, for like a new person, absolutely, it's what I recommend. And what he told me was he has customers who come in regularly, and they'll say, hey, I'm looking for a book, one that my dad would like. I don't know anything about comics. I want a Batman book. Sometimes they'll even have an example. Hey, my dad loved this random book. Do you have some? And Russ will say, yeah, actually I have a couple of different copies. And the example that he provided was that he'll have to have a conversation about, you know, how much are you looking to spend? Because are you looking for something and you don't really care how it looks like, you just want it? Or are you looking for something that's a bit more presentable? Or are you looking to have an investment grade copy? And that's essentially what we're talking about, low, middle, and high. Let's take a look at another mid-grade book. Oh, the one you just had in your hand, Sammy. What do we got? We got
that Marvel Superheroes 20.
All right.
Cover.
And what kind of problems do we have on this particular book?
So this cover overall, like from a distance, like even looking at it, you can't really see anything wrong with it. You hold it up close. On the far right, by his cape, it has a little tear. There's a couple color breaking like lines on the outer rim, but it's not wrinkled, dimpling, nothing crazy is significantly wrong with it, but it's absolutely not high grade. And what really knocked that out of that high grade range is because of that tear and those color breaks that are on that cover.
There you go. So here's an example for you, comic fam, of what a mid-grade comic would look like. You know, when you're on the con floor, I'll be real, you don't have a whole lot of opportunity to take out every single book out of the bag and board. You know, you're hunting, you're going through dollar bins, you're going through $2 bins, $5 bins, you know, going like literally getting on the floor, getting all dirty and getting cuts sometimes, you know, sometimes even bleeding, you know, you're dealing with Mylars, things like that. So, when you're going quick and you find a book like this, for example, and let's just say it's $10, you're going to grab it. You're just going to grab it. You're not even going to think twice about it. But when you're trying to decide quickly, well, hey, if it's high grade, you won. If it's mid grade, it's probably, you know, worth around what the seller's suggesting to sell it for. Or if it's really, really low grade, you may be paying too much because, hey, you didn't check to see that it has a huge page, you know, torn. The back cover is cut in half, you know, things like that. So now let's move on to what we would consider high grade. Now, granted, this is a term that's really used loosely. But let's just consider this, what would you say? 8.0 and above, higher grade, right?
So when it comes to the higher grade books, it just looks like it's an incredible, outstanding condition. Has amazing eye appeal. You don't notice really much wrong with it. And we were just talking about that 8.0, that BF copy as being probably like the low area that I would call like high grade because you don't see color breaking on the core of the cover. If you see any defects, it's going to be on the margins and they are going to be very slight, almost non-existent. So in these copies, if there's any defects, it'll be like limited and mild or minor color breaking creases, very, very, very slight tears, and very few spine ticks.
What we're looking at,
there'll be minute corner wear, but that's about it. Some lower grade, especially more modern, you'll find that they have, like, you could look at it all day and be like, all right, well, I don't really see anything wrong with this, you know? And that's where it's like, you know, the higher end of high grade is, you know, might not have any spine ticks on it, might have one, maybe, and no other significant defects or any other defects at all.
Few instances of nearly imperceptible damage, slight blunting to otherwise sharp corners, very small hint of gloss fade, creases, tears, cracks, and musty odor, not allowed. All right, this is a cover that lays flat. It's glossy, it's vibrant, it looks great, but you are starting to count defects far under what the last numbers that were quoted. You know, our low grade had over 25, right? So now we're actually counting up just a handful of major problems. And as we go up the grading scale, it gets less and less. Let's take a look at some examples. The first one that I want to show you is this glorious comic book. I'm so glad you picked this, Sammy. You didn't even know, but I love this movie. This is a girl who walks home alone at night. Have you watched this movie, Sammy? You're not a big fan of horror, so.
I have not watched it.
Okay, so first off, this right here is an amazing movie. If you're a fan of just thought-provoking, beautiful, creepy horror, it's very tame as far as gore goes, but it makes you feel disturbed. And Behemoth put out an adaptation of this comic book, 2 issues that weren't even a real adaptation. It was like just beautifully drawn black pages of art. Like it's have you looked actually inside of this book, Sammy? Have you experienced?
No, I pulled this one out of Tony's PC. He absolutely loved it though.
It's so good because like they put like the paper itself it's made so well. This is a glorious piece of art that a lot of people missed out on. And the book spiked because it's such a great horror movie and there's a lot of fans like myself. But anyways, I can see based off of this particular example, let me zoom it in just a little bit. But this is a black cover. This is very difficult to secure in high grade, just fresh from the printer, let alone having it be printed correctly by the printer. You know, your comics like this are susceptible to throughout the printing process, you know, because they get rolled and they get moved, just lines and tiny defects, right? But look at this spine. Look at this cover. It's just solid black. I see no imperfections. We have sharp corners on all sides, not one spine tick. This right here would be a great CGC candidate. And that's kind of what we're talking about, right? High grade books, stuff that you can get slabbed and feel confident about.
Absolutely.
All right. Tell me about this next one, Sammy.
So this next one, this amazing. It's so friggin' sweet. The Spider-Man one, right? So again, nice high grade copy. I'm looking at it right here. It's got sharp corners. The only thing, it's got a little tiny rub on it.
Where's the rub?
Right along the spine. I don't even know if you can see it in the picture because it's right along
I can see it.
like that.
I can see it right here.
Right here on that edge.
But
outside of that, it is what looks like a perfect conditioned comic.
Comic fam, examples of various grading methods found on the show. You're welcome. And what we're talking about is Comic Book 101. What we're going to be doing going forward is dissecting the grading scale. We're going to go deeper. We're going to go into like the Twilight Zone X-Files, as I've already mentioned. It's going to get very crazy, but we do have a lot of guests lined up, and we're excited to talk about a lot of different things, you know, the convention scene, tips and tricks, comic etiquette, grading, as mentioned, actually getting comic books graded by various companies, having those professionals join us on the mic, getting other like senior dealers on the mic and hearing their experience and tips and tricks. And we hope to bring the new members some, you know, I'm really just trying to make it easier for them, right, Sammy?
Yes, absolutely. Like this is the show I needed when I first dipped my toe into comics, because I made a lot of the same mistakes that are in my DMs, like, but they know to ask. So it's so like, I'm so happy for people when they're like, I have a question. And I'm like, thank God you asked, because I did that. So this is the show that I needed when I first started. So I'm very excited about it and to be a part of it.
Comic fam, hit the like, slap the subscribe button.